Hello, everybody. I'm David Shuster. Are Democrats just hardwired to panic? I mean, less than 4 weeks until Election Day, Democrats are freaking out over polls showing Kamala Harris barely ahead of Donald Trump nationally and trailing Trump in key battleground states. But the polls are wrong, as I'm going to show you in just a moment. Harris is ahead decisively. First, though, let's look at the source of the Democratic Party anxieties.
We've got this story from the Wall Street Journal. Kamala Harris struggling to break through with working class Democrats' fear. Indeed, my friends, in the crucial states that Harris needs to win, they're actually looking at internal polling suggesting she is down, heavily favoring Donald Trump.
Internal polls heavily favor Donald Trump. Well, not exactly. The Wall Street Journal reported, quote, an internal poll done by Democrat Tammy Baldwin's Senate campaign last week showed Harris down by 3 percentage points in Wisconsin, while Baldwin was up by 2 points, according to a person familiar with the poll. The person said much of the narrowing is due to Republican strength with non-college educated men. So why would Tammy Baldwin's campaign leak this to the Wall Street Journal? Well, that's because Baldwin wants Democrats, including the Harris campaign, to spend more money and pay more attention to Wisconsin. Keep in mind, the Wall Street Journal story emerged soon after the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee announced plans to allocate more of its money to Senate races in Texas and Florida. But those are long-shot Senate races for Democrats. Baldwin in Wisconsin wants to be the priority, along with Democratic Senate candidate Slotkin in Michigan and incumbent Pennsylvania Democratic Senator Bob Casey. Also, the internal polls have not been leaked, just characterizations of those internal polls. And again, the sources are Democrats wanting more Democratic money and help, not less, because the money and help is going elsewhere. Now, I hear some of you saying, okay, but the battleground states are still too close for comfort. And certainly that is what the mainstream media is telling you.
But look at this. A 1-point advantage in Pennsylvania, 2 points in Michigan, 2 points in Wisconsin. All well within the margin of error, too close to call. You come over now to the Sun Belt battleground states, you got a little bit more red here. Trump up by a point in North Carolina, Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, Harris holding on to a 1-point advantage, but again, very, very tight.
Very, very tight. States too close to call, polls within the margin of error. And so the Democratic heartburn is going through the roof. But here's why Democrats should take a deep breath. All of these polls showing Donald Trump deadlocked with Kamala Harris or ahead in key battleground states have polling models that only count voters who participated in a recent election. This is what the pollsters call a likely voter. If you did not vote in the 2022 midterms or the 2020 presidential election, you do not qualify with most pollsters as a likely voter, and therefore you are not part of their sample for 2024. So young women who have been registering in droves, not counted in the polls. Other first-time voters in 2024, not counted in the polls. People who did not vote in the midterms and didn't vote in 2020 because of the pandemic, not counted in the 2024 polls. In other words, the sampling models that pollsters rely on have some major flaws. Now, to be fair, people who have voted in the past are far more likely to vote now, and it's understandable why pollsters would only want to consider likely voters in their data sets. But the gaps between polls of likely voters and actual election results have been significant the past 2 years. Take, for example, the 2022 congressional midterms. The conventional wisdom, based largely on pre-election polling, was that Democrats were going to suffer a bloodbath. Instead, the Democrats mostly treaded water and did far better than expected. In Wisconsin, a state Supreme Court race with the court majority hanging in the balance was supposed to be too close to call. Instead, the Democrat won by 11%. In Alabama, the only competitive seat in the state Senate had a special election. The Democrat, who lost the seat by 7% a year earlier, won by 25%. In New York, where a special election was held to fill George Santos' congressional seat, polls showed a toss-up, but the Democrat won by 8 points. A special election in New Jersey over a seat that was safely blue produced extremely low turnout, but the Democrat still won 80%, compared to 75% the previous election. In Fairbanks, Alaska, a plus 14 Donald Trump city, the Democrat just won the mayoral election there by 15%. And then there are the abortion initiatives. In blue states and red states, pro-choice advocates have outperformed the polls in every single referendum. Now, I get that countless Americans still have the scars from 2016 when Hillary Clinton led Donald Trump in the pre-election polls. won the popular vote but lost the election thanks to a few battleground states. And in 2020, Joe Biden was much further ahead in pre-election polls than the final voting results. So the pollsters adjusted their methodologies. But there is every indication they over-adjusted them. Also, some of the polling organizations in 2024 are new. SoCal Strategies and Red Eagle, their results are extremely favorable to Donald Trump. Inside Advantage, Trafalgar, and Rasmussen, well, they've been around a bit longer, but also have a clear pro-Trump bias. For example, Trafalgar recently showed Donald Trump ahead by 2 in Pennsylvania. And in the polling crosstabs, Trafalgar found Donald Trump winning 46% of the African American vote. The Trump campaign would be thrilled to get half of that. So the poll is nonsense. Anyway, abortion is the reason the 2024 election will not be close. As we've seen in every election since the Supreme Court Dobbs decision, women are voting in numbers the polling models have not been able to account for. Now, to be clear, the only survey that really matters is the result from actual voting. And it would be a huge mistake for Democrats to sit back and not go full throttle, pedal to the metal, all hands on deck, or whatever cliche you want to use. Trump and his MAGA followers have appended every political norm and have proven they are willing to lie about anything to get Donald Trump back into the White House. So Democrats should treat this campaign as if everything depends on the outcome, because it does. But as you check to make sure you are registered, and you send postcards to undecided voters, and you rally your family and friends, don't be distracted by misleading polls. Don't let anybody get you down. Kamala Harris is going to win this presidential campaign if you stay enthusiastic and vote. It's going to happen. By the way, a C-SPAN caller just brutalized a Trump official in a stunning live takedown.
The anti-immigrant propaganda is absolutely despicable. It sounds exactly like the anti-Jewish propaganda during the Third Reich.
These are killers. These are people at the highest level of killing that cut your throat and they won't even think about it the next morning. A lot of gang members, they take their gangs off the street. Like in Caracas, Venezuela, the criminals have all been brought to the United States. They're conquering your communities. Migrants are walking off with the town's geese. They take in the geese. You know where the geese are? In the park, in the lake. And even walking off with their pets. We have to get them the hell out of our country because they're ruining the fabric of our country.
Check out that video at the link below. It generated a lot of comments on YouTube. One of the most popular is from Mercy Salazar, who wrote, referring to Donald Trump, "I can't stand this sorry-ass excuse of a man. Please, everyone, vote blue. No to Project 2025. I hear you. I look forward to reading your comments about the polls claiming the presidential race is close when there is every indication the polls are undercounting women who believe in reproductive rights. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.